So what's up, guys? This video I'm going to tell you about some of the ways that I used to make weapons while incarcerated. So some of these things go way back to juvenile detention. Others were, mostly county jail situations. I didn't really have the need in prison, to get crazy like that, and have shanks and shit on me all the time. But the first way that I ever found to make a weapon was that when people come in, if they're wearing boots, right, any kind of boots from the streets like Tim's or whatever, you open those boots up from the inside and there's a metal bar that's inside every pair of boots. It adds for structural support or whatever. A lot of places pull that shit out. They know it's there, or they take your street boots and clothes and give you, county shit. But a lot of places don't. So people come in and, right away when people would come in, I would check their boots. If we needed weapons at the time, for whatever reason, I wouldn't do it, but I'd have one of my guys do it, and they pull out the metal. It's a bar probably about 4 inches, inch wide, like 4 inches long, and it's just steel. It's a rectangular steel bar, and so we just take that and grind the shit out of it on the floor. Keep in mind, guys, jails basically are a fucking giant, grinding stone. It's all concrete, and concrete works well for sharpening things. So we'd sharpen it on the floor, and that would be a real nice weapon in itself. Another way that I used to make weapons was from the safety razors. So it was like once a week, sometimes once every other week, they would come in with razors so you could shave, right? You have to check out the razor blade. You have to take it, and they monitor it, and they check it when you return it. So they give you like 10 minutes to shave with it. You can take it to your cell. So what I figured out was that I could extract that blade. I could pop the plastic open, pull the little blade part out, and this is fucking crazy. I don't know how I got this off, but I would replace it with a bag of potato chips, right? Because they sell potato chips in the canteen. The inside of the bag is like reflective, right? I would take that reflective paper now and basically make and fashion into the exact shape of the blade, including the little holes and everything, and pop it in there and seal it back up. When I go to the cops were never really checking me like that anyway. I would just flash the blade to them, they'd see it, and I'd throw it right in the garbage can right next to them. And they would keep their eyes on that garbage can. But I would get it off all the time. I did it many times where I took blades like that, never got caught. They just looked at it and saw that it was metal in there, what looked like metal, and they let me get away with it. So when we had those little razor blades then, now you can use those and basically just melt it into a plastic toothbrush or anything. You can create handles out of anything, and you could just have that. That's a real dangerous weapon, and when used, it looks like it's making a tiny little slice, but what happens is after a couple seconds, that shit just opens up and people leak all over the place. So it's a real dangerous thing to fight against. One of the more creative ways that I did eventually in one place where I was just, bored. I had time on my hands and we needed weapons, so I was trying to think creatively. We were running out of options. So I created from state soap or county soap, the soap they give you, I would use that and create a mold, right? I would create a mold of the shape that I wanted, and I would melt in my cell different plastics, like the plastic from toothbrushes, the plastic from pens, from the hair combs, and I would keep trying and mixing different ones and adding different things till I found one that worked well and would harden enough in the shape that I needed. Usually I didn't fuck with plastic because the plastic wasn't as strong, it would break, but some places we had nothing but that. So I'd use that as the base, and then I just, create a handle and make that. That was a crazy way that, I would make stuff. There were also basic ways people used without really having to obtain contraband, like using pencils. A pen is always contraband, but people would stab each other with pens, stuff like that. I didn't really do anything like that. I never fucked with those. Another real creative thing that I did was, in order to make handles, right? Like if you had a real big blade or a need for something big, you could actually make a spear if you wanted from this. But I would take a magazine, right? And if you roll a magazine real tight and then wrap it with tape or tie it up with something, that will fucking become like wood. It's very hard. And you shove a blade in there in the end, tie it off, and now you have a fucking dagger, basically. So usually you wouldn't have that because that's huge and it's more difficult to conceal, but sometimes shit got crazy and sometimes intimidation factor alone came into play. If somebody sees you with some shit like that, you pull some shit out like that, they're going to fucking run a lot of times. So that was another pretty unique way. One of the more dangerous blades that I've ever made, shanks, banger, whatever you want to call it, was from the actual metal of the steel bunk in the cell, right? So it's a regular metal double bunk, and there's like two steel bars coming down that are like 8 to 10 inches probably as reinforcement on the end of both, right? They come down like this. Somehow, I was able to rip one of those bars off on more than one occasion, and that was the most dangerous weapon ever because it would take a long time to grind it down, but once you made that into a point, that was fucking very, very dangerous and intimidating weapon to go up against. Another very, very dangerous, weapon that I made, again, multiple times, was by using a can of shaving cream. So again, the same way I explained to you about the process of shaving, how they check for the shit, they also check for the cans, right? They let you use shaving cream. And I don't know what it was, how I was able to get them. Each time I scanned it somehow, people helped me, and I would steal the can, right? I'd take that can, and I'd break it. I'd use the same metal bunk I just told you about, which is real heavy. I'd put the can on the ground, lift it, smash it until I cracked the can, and then I had a flat piece of aluminum. I'd lay it down, right? I'd lay it down, and then I'd start overlapping it and folding it in the way I wanted, and with each fold, I'd put it on the ground again, lift up the bunk, and smash it using the corner, the metal part of the bunk, and smash the metal down, fold it, keep folding it until I had a fucking blade that was insane. So that was a very, very fucking dangerous weapon because, again, those aluminum cans, if you fashion it in that way, that shit is fucking ridiculously sharp and jagged. So you really can fuck somebody up bad with that. Luckily, I never put that into anybody. Let me think of another way. What other ways? From the actual serving trays, right? So when they serve you meals, they serve it on this plastic tray. Again, these are all accounted for, so they check shit. But sometimes we'd be able to get it off. I wouldn't do it. Other people would do it and cut from the actual largest portion. Each tray has like 3 or 4 little compartments. The largest one is where they put the main meal, whatever. They would just cut out the plastic and cut it in like a triangular shape and take that and then sharpen that. That was a real hard plastic that you could use also. And, that was another way to make blades also. So there was a lot of different ways that, I was able to come up with weapons. In addition to the actual blade shank type weapon, there was also locks, when you had combination locks. I never used that in a fight, but I've seen that many times where people would just put that in a sock and use that. Or they just put it in their hand and let the actual bolt part, the locking part of steel, go over their knuckle and punch with that. I mean, there was a lot of different ways, but basically anything you could fucking use. Like I said, some people would just use little fucking pencils. Little crazy Mexican that was my right-hand man stabbed the shit out of somebody right in his face with a pencil. So anything could be used effectively, but I found that when you had big weapons like that, again, the psychological thing came into play. And when people knew that we were fucking armed like that, they would hesitate and act a lot differently than if they thought we were coming in with little fucking pencils that would snap and shit. So these were crazy times, and, it wasn't always like that in every place, but in some places, when I was at my worst, like I remember me and my cellmate, who was my co-defendant also, I got him into my cell, and for a couple nights in a row, we were just on the ground all night, sharpening, and making blades. It was crazy, what we had to do. Again, at its worst, when shit was the most violent and like ready to fucking explode, it was at the point where, because I was like the leader of my side, I became a target where my people wouldn't even let me fucking go to the shower. They wanted to escort me, and they would go and stand outside the shower with fucking weapons on them, standing there like fucking soldiers while I showered, because they thought I was vulnerable at that point and they didn't want me to get stabbed in there. So shit was really fucking crazy, guys. I know a lot of these stories sound, way the fuck out there, but this is another world. It's not like the streets. Shit is very, very different. And I hope that none of you ever have to be in those kind of places or just feel that kind of way that I did, where this is what the fuck we're doing. I'm on the ground in my fucking cage, sharpening fucking metal and ready to fucking go to war. Not a good place to be, guys. So I hope you got some, enjoyment out of this video, and thank you guys again for watching. I'll see you next time.